Welcome to Whispers of Wisdom. I'm your host, Christine Renee, and today we have on guest Bruce Taylor, who's going to be sharing with us about the concept of surrender. We entered into this conversation without agenda, and this was the topic that really stood out above the rest about how do we step into empowerment and then release any expectations, release attachment to really fully embrace what spirit has to offer us. And we do this through the lens of also our work in Japan on Mount Kyoto, as Bruce hosts a really amazing pilgrimage every year to Mount Kyoto and Mount Hiei. And I attended one 2 years ago, and I am going again in 2025. So be sure to tune in, listen, and notice what nuggets of wisdom stand out for you. Before we jump into the show, I wanted to give you a little bit of a teaser of what we're going to be talking about today.
You're surrendering to like Gaia herself manifested in every possible way that she could show her beauty. So there's no reason to be afraid of it. And if you are staying with that, then some of the aspects that you understand are things like healing and invisibility and shape-shifting and all of that. Now, I know people might be like, well, what do you mean you can learn how to be invisible? You can learn how to shape-shift and whatever. What is really being meant there is you start to recognize that your form is an attachment.
Yes.
This is the shamanic stuff here,
Yes.
right?
This is it. This is it.
This is it. So if you sit there and you're like, oh, woe is me, and I'm this, and I'm a Reiki master, and da 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 da, but I can't let go, then you can never learn how to heal. You can never learn how to be invisible or to shapeshift, because what that really means is that you are learning how to become formless, which means you're letting go of all of your attachments and you're simply breathing and moving with the pulsation of everything.
Yep, this episode is super juicy, and I love how in depth we go. I hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to follow us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of the places, because we have got a lot of amazing content in a lot of different areas. So be sure to check them out, as well as Bruce's YouTube channel, Roots of Life. And know that in the show notes, you will find the link to join us on this 2025 pilgrimage. Welcome to your Wisdom Rising podcast. I'm your host, Christine Renee, and I'm excited to have our guest today, Bruce Taylor. He has been in our world for a long time now.
A long time.
A long time now, previous to the rebrand. Bruce and I go way back, and I totally see him as a colleague, as a mentor, as someone who I love to go just to have these really cool conversations with, as well as travel with. Like, so this was who I went with for Roots of Reiki, for the Reiki pilgrimage in Kyoto 2 years ago. And we are planning on doing it again this spring in 2025. And I cannot wait. And so we're bringing Bruce on to the conversation to go, well, how does the roots of Reiki and this pilgrimage in particular tie into shamanism? Because when I was there, it was such over the top, like, oh my goodness, yes, like this is all very shamanic. And I don't think people really have that understanding. I think there's part of it that's cultural perspective. There's all these different layers that is very unaware to Westerners in the Reiki world. And so I would love to like dive in, but know that Bruce has been doing Reiki just as long as I have. Bruce has been studying deeply into the Reiki lineages for his career in Reiki, and has studied in Hong Kong and practiced in Hong Kong and all over Asia. And so I'm very excited to have him on the show again today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be back, as always. And I'm very happy for this conversation. We always have great conversations together, so I'm looking forward to it.
We do. I feel like, just so our listeners know, we didn't prep for this. There has been
Not at all. There's no notes. There's no script. It's just off the top of the head, all of it, unrehearsed.
Unrehearsed. And I love that, because that's how we jive. Like, we can just jump on a call and have these really cool, intimate conversations and really dive in and kind of scratch each other's minds about these topics. And so we want to invite you into that conversation. We want to invite you into knowing that there's no pre-scripted anything. We don't even have like highlights of what we want to talk about, other than we want to talk about Reiki. We want to talk about shamanism. We want to talk about Japan. Mm-hmm. We want to talk about the pilgrimage. And so here we go. How do we want to start off the conversation?
Well, because we have no notes, now I'm on the spot. How am I going to start this conversation? Well, let's bridge it. Let's bridge maybe and open it up with this understanding or an exploration of the bridge between, or the links between, what most people would think is Reiki and what most people would think is maybe a shamanic practice or a shamanic approach to the internal environment. Let's just say something like that, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I'm just trying to sort that out, because that's such a big
topic.
But I'll start it very quickly like this. Like most exposures, initial exposures to Reiki, in my opinion, are like, you're going to learn how to heal. You're going to learn how to use energy. You're going to learn how to work with the symbols and all of that type of stuff. And that's great. Those are fine initial steps. They're fine initial segues into the practice. But hopefully, eventually, people will move away from that and recognize that Reiki is actually an internal journey. It's a journey into the self. It is a journey from which healing becomes a byproduct. And why that's so important is because if we sit down with the belief that we can heal with touch, I'm not saying you can't, by the way, but I'm just saying if you believe that and that's your focus, then you're attaching to the outcome. And maybe people who are already like deeply involved in both realms, the kind of the shamanic world and the Reiki world, can already kind of see where I'm going with here. Mm-hmm. The shamanic approach to any of these practices demand that we surrender. Mm-hmm. So you have to turn in, be it psychedelic, be it sound work, whatever it is, whatever the approach, mediumship, whatever it is, we surrender into the practice and let go of this. This thing is the facade that keeps us veiled from the bigger picture, as it were. And I think many times the approach to and the understanding of Reiki is still kind of framed in that the barrier between the bigger picture and the entrapment of the belief.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I've actually just before this, I've actually just filmed a video for YouTube, which is coming out like in 20 minutes now. And it's why you can't learn Reiki in a weekend. You can't like go and do level 1, 2, and 3 as a brand new student, and then all of a sudden you can heal, because all of that is just belief, and it's going to be a letdown. You're not going to recognize the depth of the internal journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's definitely these steps of awakening that you can see through these practices of we're moving from victimhood into empowerment, setting intentions. And then we have like the coming into this place of how do we surrender? I love that topic of surrendering into and allowing the mind to become a blank canvas, allowing the body to become a blank canvas, so that the divine inspiration, the divine clarity can come through. And in that process, you're moving through the steps of awakening. But that surrender piece really is the shift. You're moving from victimhood into empowerment, saying, okay, I'm taking full responsibility and accountability for my life, my actions, my trauma, my healing, all of the things. And in that process, we're starting to set intentions. We're starting to make goals. We're starting to activate that part of ourselves. But there's so much more if we can move through that process of surrender. And as we do our shamanic work, that part of the surrendering is letting go of that attachment. That surrendering is letting go of what is going to happen in your shamanic journey or in the process, and not getting attached to how it's quote unquote supposed to look,
Mm-hmm.
and allowing whatever to happen. And I feel like that part of wherever you're at in your Reiki and or shamanic journey is so significant if you are really going to be finding your place in a state of peace, a place of
Yeah.
joy, a place
Yeah.
of contentment. Like that's where it happens. It's not in the empowerment phase, it's after the surrender.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When you said this, it is a perfect way to sum it all up. And this kind of movement from the victim state to the empowerment state, at least in my approach to the practice, we're always somewhere on that.
Totally.
Like when I've got a really difficult practice in the psychedelic space, the Reiki space, whatever, if I'm doing journey work, whatever, okay, there's going to be really difficult moments, and I'm going to be right back at the victim state. I mean, I've literally got a rock to anchor me from Mount Kurama, literally sitting right next to where I do my practice. And this is when I'm at the victim state, and I need an attachment to ground me and bring me back so I can work towards getting empowered. And I think that this is the beautiful journey here, but we can't stay focused on that victim state. The victim state will be full of story and belief and outcome and focus and attachment. Whereas if the whole of these practices were just from the onset focusing on the empowerment and transcending the empowerment, I think everybody could recognize that we can use that as our focus. We don't have to be afraid of that. We don't need to believe in these stories, and we don't need to believe in like magical powers and all that type of stuff. And I think this is why, in a shamanic practice, if you channel a spirit animal, your spirit guides, whatever that might be, all of those are part and parcel of the entire universe, of which you, and I mean you, Christine, I mean me, I mean everybody listening from your frame of reference, you are the center of that universe. So everything that is in your external reality is simply a mirror of your internal state. So when we sit there and we are doing journey work, doing our Reiki practice, doing whatever it is, if we simply listen to the outcome, then the angels, the guides, the animals, the hand placements, the precepts, whatever it is, Daikomyo, Dainichi Norai, it doesn't matter. But all of those things are helping us to see where the next obstacle on our own attachments is lying, and bringing us to that with the courage of like, you know what, me, Bruce, I can't do that right now. So I need maybe Archangel Raphael, but I am Archangel Raphael. That's what we can't forget. We already are that. But it's like, I need to focus on this one aspect of me that has the courage to tackle this attachment because the rest of Bruce is too scared to do it, you
Right.
know? So it's this way to kind of like modulate our practice. And to me, that's like this mindset is so pivotal. And so it's like a paradigm shift in our
Yes.
practice, I think, in a way.
And I just want to highlight that like your internal reality is reflected in our external reality. And so the more we can go and invite in that internal journey, the more we're going to see the shift in our external reality.
Right.
And whether that is through spirit or through our physical things that are showing up in our life, are we receiving synchronicities or receiving problems and health issues in our world? Like
Right.
it's so reflective of, and how are we cleaning and clearing and cultivating a place of peace within so our external reality can be a reflective of that, and so that even if there is chaos going on in our external reality, we can take a step back, not get attached, and go, well, it looks like I need to do more internal work.
Right.
Right.
Always.
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 It's always there.
Always.
It's always there. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like if there's problems in your life, the common denominator is you.
Right.
I'm there. If it's in my world and I'm experiencing it, I am the common denominator. So how can I continue to approach my practice in a state of surrender, in a state of I'm returning yet again and again and again? Because we all fall back to that victimhood. I think that's the thing. It's like I love that reminder piece that you gave of sometimes we just need a rock from Mount Kurama to ground us in again, right? It's that we're human
Right.
We are
Doing
earthlings
human things.
doing human things, having a human experience,
Yeah.
and we're going to trip ourselves up. And can we give ourselves the grace to return back to our practice
Yeah.
instead of back into old patterns and self-sabotaging behaviors? Where can we say, I'm going to give myself a space to rest, rejuvenate, return to? And even myself recently, it's like, okay, I've got a really well established nighttime routine where I chant my Gokai, I do my dry bathing, I sweep everything off, and I do my Reiki practice. That is a nightly thing that I've done for years and I love it. It's there. But my mornings are not the same. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what if I take 5 minutes? Can I give myself 5 minutes to meditate in the morning? Is that really asking too much of myself and my family? No. It's no.
No.
The answer is no. I can take 5 minutes. I can do this. And how is it going to set myself up for the day to be more likely to be in a place of empowerment, a place of surrender, and a place of receiving from divine if I
Yep.
took that 5 minutes,
Yep.
right? And so
Absolutely.
how do we carve that out into our life to say yes to continuous healing, continuous peace, continuous calm, continuous contentment, if that's what we're looking for?
Yeah, there's two statements that as you're saying that I'm sure I know everybody has heard these two, and they kind of frame up what we're talking about here, in my opinion. A, misery loves company. We've all heard that before,
Yep.
right? So if you have a miserable internal state, which we all do at some point, then your external world will be the company that reflects that misery back to you. Or B, if you start your day with a practice, meditation, Reiki, whatever, it doesn't matter, breath work doesn't matter, then you're going to be more on a trajectory of the power of manifestation. You are moving more freely forward in your day with less attachments to your anger and worry, which are the first two precepts, by the way. Or if we can let go of those, then we are just the flow of the abundance of the universe. And that can manifest in any way that you choose it to be, right? That
Right.
might sound really abstract. It might sound impossible, but it's not. If I am locked in anger and worry and everything that could fall under those umbrellas, then I'm not going to go for a run today. I'm not going to make a new video on YouTube. I'm not going to do so. Then my business and my subscribers and my fitness and all those other things, they won't become part of my manifestation because I'm locked in the misery loves company state.
Yeah.
So we get away from that by turning into the self and working to let go. And even if sometimes it can be overwhelming or scary or difficult or whatever, the results are always really beautiful because the results are like, oh my God, I just finally let go of that thing that I've been holding on to forever. And I feel way better now. And actually, it was never as bad as we thought it would be, at least for me. When I think, when I'm walking towards it, it seems like Mount Everest and I'm going to die and there's no way and it's going to be awful and whatever. And then I get over it and it's like, oh, see, just like every other time before that, it literally was not as bad as you thought.
Yeah.
So just keep doing it. Keep
Right.
trying.
Well, and I
Keep doing
felt like when I went to Japan 2 years ago, it stepping into a culture that was set up for mindfulness and awareness was a huge eye-opening experience.
it. Mm.
Like I hadn't left the country in about probably 15 years at that point. And so I was very much in my American lifestyle and pattern living in Montana. And when I was able to take myself out of the country and stretch myself and go to Japan for a pilgrimage of 2020, what was that, 2022,
Yep, that's
I
right.
believe. Um, it it really just, man, my anxiety went down. That just for today, do not worry was so much easier in Japan, even though I was traveling and it was a completely new experience for me. But the culture itself had a vibration that was slower and more relaxed and more grateful and more peaceful. Like it just felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, sometimes we need a kind of a shock to the system to see it. And when we were there, it was so much easier because you're outside of your comfort zone already to go, how can I just surrender into this experience? How
Mm-hmm.
can I just allow whatever is going to happen because I'm not tied to a specific daily routine that I'm used to back home. I don't have to take care of the kids. I don't have to take care of my husband. I don't have to do what is in the normal pattern. So then when you're showing up in a pilgrimage, it's more of so much easier to go, I'm surrendering, I'm surrendering, I'm surrendering, I'm surrendering.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it a pilgrimage so readily because that's expected.
Yeah, and it's built in, my work in organizing these pilgrimages for the year that I spent planning it prior. That's all my heavy lifting and getting everything organized and arranging all the amazing experiences and all that type of stuff. And then when we're there, there's a really beautiful moment for me because I can step back and I can watch people surrender. I'm already surrendering as well, I hope, on the pilgrimage myself. But there's this beauty of it, of helping people into the experience. Like I think back every time on these pilgrimages at Mount Kurama, there's always somebody who's like, I can't do it. I can't go up the mountain. I can't go up the mountain. And it's like, but in 5 minutes you will be. And and then in 20 minutes you're going to be in front of everybody because we're going to all watch this beautiful lotus let go
Unfold.
and
Yeah.
open and unfurl to the sky because that's our true nature. And it's part of the beauty of this place. I think especially for people who have never traveled or maybe Americans or people, who have never been to Japan, it might seem like a daunting place. One of the things that I tell people is in Japan, especially Americans, in Japan, you will remember this, Christine, you can see 5-year-old kids by themselves making their way across Kyoto to go to school with their cute little
Yes.
backpacks on and all that type of stuff. It is stupendously safe, So I think when people arrive and they start to see that, all of this baggage just immediately drops.
Yes.
It just,
Well,
you
and I
just did
think,
it in your body language right
yeah,
there. We feel every
just
time like, boom,
it
let go.
it was absolutely the safest I've ever felt in my life, which
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting. I knew it was going to be a safe country, but not to the level of, wow, I feel safer walking through Japan than in my hometown. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
and just in that level of safety, you're allowing yourself to do deeper internal healing work. We
Right.
only can approach healing to the level in which we feel safe. Right. And so whether that's you cultivating a sanctuary space within your home or going on a pilgrimage, putting yourself in a scenario, going on a silent meditation retreat or whatever it is for you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're still only going to meet the level of transformation to the level in which you feel safe. And so going to Japan and instantly feeling that safety of I can eat anywhere we go, I'm going to be able to be fit. I'm going to be able to feed myself. And that's not true in the US. I can eat
Right.
there. I'm physically safe. I have no fear of being attacked. There's no threat. There's no threat. And everything around me is showing me the deep respect for each other and the plant life and the
Mm-hmm.
environment
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
so profound that just for today, do not worry and do not anger was like, oh, it's not an issue here. It's just not, there's
Right.
no, like, I don't have to get angry that I go into a restaurant and not have anything on the menu that I can eat. Like
Right. Right.
the triggers are not there. Right. And I'm sure there's some people who have traveled that do have that experience of finding a place to worry or finding a place to get angry. But there's this beautiful invitation in the culture to be like, you can let it go now. You
Just
can
put all
set,
all that armor can just be put on the shelf,
yeah, we
and
can
we can
just set
let
it
it go.
aside. And
Just set it
everyone
aside.
is so helpful. Like I remember getting really worked up about trying to figure out the train passes. And the train station guy was just like, it's okay. We're just gonna make it work for you. Like they're not upset. They like it looked like I was trying to steal a train pass because I didn't pay the appropriate amount or something. He's like, it's okay. We're gonna just take care
Yeah.
of it. And so
Yeah.
it's just there's just not that level of struggle or stress. And so to be able to then move into pilgrimage space, whether it's going up to Mount Kurama or visiting Mount Hiei or going to the Shugendo temple, you could be more fully present in the moment.
Right.
And experience the spiritual wisdom that was occurring in that moment and being able to receive it because you didn't have anything else to do. It was like you could be fully in the present, in the now, and just witness yourself, the environment. Like there wasn't so much brain clutter because there was no need for it. And it
Right.
was just a beautiful break. like,
Right.
like my mind is usually very busy. And, it's a practice of how do you calm the mind down. And it was easier in Japan. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when all of that is put on the back burner or just throttled down a little bit,
Yes.
then all of a sudden you can recognize all of these experiences that are taking place on these pilgrimages that nobody else has the opportunity to do. Nobody has
Yeah.
these levels of access except on this pilgrimage. And it's like, hold on a second. We are literally in one of the most significant temples of Kyoto that's closed to the public with the head priest. He's talking all about the deep roots of this place to a group of less than 20 people, of which you can be a part. And it's like, and
It's
that's just
crazy.
one day. And if we think about this idea of connecting it to a shamanic practice or to a
Yes.
Reiki practice, we can see how it starts to merge together. Because if you're fully present in, like you said, the Shugendo temple, or when you're on Mount Kurama or whatever, if you're fully present for our time together with the head priest of Mount Kurama as we walk through the mountain and we have private teachings with him and all of that, then you are going to go so deeply inside into your internal space without even knowing it, mind you, that it's almost like you merge with the wisdom. And I know if you think back from 2022, you can see that happening. You can see
Yeah.
people like, wow, okay, I get it, and I'm ready now to take that next step
Yes.
because the barriers that were there, I've let go of that because I was able to put my worries aside, put my mind aside, and just listen and be present. And now it makes so much more sense. You can witness personal evolution unfolding in real time in these experiences, even if there's internal resistance. Simply being in the audience of these people who have dedicated their entire life to one aspect of this practice, it's like meeting the Pope, or something. Like you cannot help but be moved by their presence. And
Yeah.
then that propels you to further your own spiritual, personal, emotional, whatever evolution. You just evolve. You just become what it is we're talking about. It's incredible.
It's amazing. And, I felt a real deep connection, understanding once we got into the Shogendo perspective. Like
Mm-hmm.
to me, it felt like this is the indigenous wisdom that's coming through from this land. It felt like this has been happening for millennia, this connection with nature and this deep, devoted practice to mountain asceticism or
Mm-hmm.
the just connecting into nature. And this was their practice. And just being at the temple that day, I remember, like, it was one of the very first things we did on the pilgrimage, and I was like, well, that was worth the price because
Yeah.
it was so incredibly profound to have the head priest move through this temple that was closed to the public and sit in a space of witnessing all of these uh, you know uh the I don't want to say gods and goddesses, there's a different term, but like the entities
The
of
deities.
the deities, thank you, the deities in that space, and just being introduced to them
Mm-hmm.
felt
Mm-hmm.
really um like tangible, like there was like a
Mm-hmm.
visceral experience of like they're here, I can
Mm-hmm.
feel them in the room with me. And having Fudamyo reveal his power in that moment and burn away all of the things that we were coming forward with at the very start of the journey of the pilgrimage, like it was very much like you can have it. I've got all this fire. Let's just burn
Yeah.
it away so that you can really meet the rest of the pilgrimage where we're at. And so there was, these nature elements, there's this deity elements, there's this surrendering process, there's, the tears and the visceral process that was happening and occurring within me and going, wow, wow, wow. It was
Yeah.
just, it was profound. And I mean, I still have a little food and on my desk. Like I have little statues.
Nice.
I like it's part of a remembering of like I can tune back into that energy at any time. It's that I can bring those elements home with me and experience it here in my office. It doesn't have to be, I have to go to Japan for this, though. Honestly, like if I could go to Japan every year on this pilgrimage, I would 100% hands down.
Yeah,
Like I'm
100%.
there. And because it's that reminder of this is what surrender looks like. This is how easy it can be. And what can show up for you in that space, what healing transformation can show up to you in that space. And know that you are you are of nature. You
Hmm.
are one with Mount Kurama. You are connected to these deities if you choose to be. And how does your internal world shift by having these external experiences?
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. And for listeners who might be, maybe hearing some of these terminologies for the first time, I'll kind of stitch a lot of that together here. The practice of Shugendo, like Christine was saying, is mountain aestheticism. And there's a lot to it that I won't get into just for the sake of the timing. But essentially, it's that you surrender yourself to the mountain. So you go off on long hikes, or maybe you go and do meditation work and fasting work, or whatever it might be, like Usui Sensei did in his 21 days on Mount Kurama. And in that practice of austerity, you are surrendering yourself to the mountain. You're surrendering yourself to the natural world to be, for a lack of a more efficient way to put it, to be purified by that energy of the world, of the natural world, right? And starting the pilgrimage off, the first stop that we had after lunch, like Christine's saying, is to Shogoin, and that should be what we do this year as well on this pilgrimage. And that is for the exact reason that you're talking about, to represent all of the deities and everything that we're going to be exploring on this time together, to introduce them to you in a way, and to start with the familiarity of like, hold on a second, that sounds amazing. That sounds like I could call on Fudo, or I can call on whoever to do these certain things. And then we start to realize that we have all of that inside of us, and
Yes.
we can do that whenever we wish. So then we progress up to Mount Kurama. And, one of the really beautiful takeaways last year was before the pilgrimage last year, actually, when I was with the priest and we were hanging out on the mountain, and we were talking back and forth because ironically on Mount Kurama, everybody who's there, they're kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, that like Usui guy was here, like, and he learned how to heal or something. Like, I think like it's not
Right.
a big part of
It's
the
not
of
at
the
all.
story. And I think that now listeners might be like, well, what? Like, how could they not know that this is, because from a Reiki perspective, it's huge. Okay. From their perspective, what they are politely and subtly saying is yes, but don't attach. Don't attach. Listen to the mountain. Because, and as people will learn when they go on the pilgrimage, when we are on the mountain, we are presented with the unique opportunity to face our own attachments. And if we can supersede all of those attachments, then we're granted, this is part of the mysticism of Mount Kurama, we're granted a number of different attributes. So, one of the things that if you face fully yourself, I'm not going to go into all the details because we could geek out on this for literally for hours, but if you go face yourself on the mountain, which we're going to be doing plenty of, it's not scary. It's very, very beautiful. The mountain is so, imagine like being cradled in the epitome of nature. One of the aspects of Mount Kurama is believed to be the exact spot by locals and Buddhists in Japan, the exact spot where all life on Earth originated.
Hmm.
And so and there's nothing to be afraid of here. And last year, after last year's pilgrimage, we had the opportunity to walk, myself and my friends in Japan and stuff. We were walking on the back trails of Mount Kurama, and we turned into one of these little ravines, and all of us stopped. And we were like, this is the most avatar thing I have ever seen. Like, I cannot, the amount of energy and life spewing out of the earth here had every one of us speechless. So that's what you're surrendering to. You're not surrendering to like demons and hell and all, none of that. You're surrendering to like Gaia herself manifested in every possible way that she could show her beauty. So there's no reason to be afraid of it. And if you are staying with that, then some of the aspects that you understand are things like healing and invisibility and shapeshifting and all of that. Now, I know people might be like, well, what do you mean you can learn how to be invisible? You can learn how to shapeshift and whatever. What is really being meant there is you start to recognize that your form is an attachment.
Yes.
This is the shamanic stuff here,
Yes.
right?
This is it.
So
This is it.
this is it. So if you sit there and you're like, oh, woe is me, and I'm this and I'm a Reiki master and da 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 da, but I can't let go, then you can never learn how to heal. You can never learn how to be invisible or to shapeshift, because what that really means is that you are learning how to become formless, which means you're letting go of all of your attachments and you're simply breathing and moving with the pulsation of everything.
Yes.
And this is when we were in this back ravine, which is, I think, spoiler, but I think this is going to be like a new chapter coming forward that these pilgrimages are going to in the future be a part of. But this area is, it's like the lungs of the earth. It's like being in swallowed up and just existing in the pure radiance of life and moving with it. It's overwhelming. And that's just next to like all of the temples and the areas where we're going to be on the mountain. So you can feel all of that energy. It's deeply significant, entirely significant. And, one of the most beautiful moments when I was with the head priest that I didn't mention this a couple minutes ago is he was like, we don't come to this mountain to practice worshiping into Sonten or Bishop Mon or Mao San or Fudo or Kenon or Usui Sensei or any of that type of stuff. We come here to listen to the mountain. So we walk out in the mountain to listen. And in reality, you're listening to your attachments. And if you can let go of those attachments, and then, okay, maybe, wow, hold, this one is really, really difficult. So where's Fudo? Let me call on Fudo to help me burn that attachment. Let me call on Kenon, the divine feminine, the Virgin Mary, the feminine energy. Let me call on her to bring that life and love through me, to feel that instead of attaching to my wound. Let
Yes.
me call on Bishop Mon to give me the illumination and wisdom of the universe to help me see beyond my limited understanding of the self. Let me call on Mao San, who is like the earth energy, to give me the courage and the strength and the stability to stand up to my own fears. Like there's all these beautiful aspects that we have, but then ultimately, if we can just rest and be, and then we transcend the self. And it is, we can do this work anywhere. We can do this. It doesn't make any difference, but it is undeniable when you are in a place where the entire ethos is on that focus. It's going to be a lot harder to find Satori on Fifth Avenue in New York than it's going to be on Mount Kurama, because
Right.
Mount Kurama, everybody is sitting in the movement of that energy. You can't help but be swept away with it. And, if you think back to 2022 when you were there, like I'm saying, from my perspective, I could see most everybody being like just
Mhm.
blossoming open. You
Yeah.
can't help it. It's incredible. That's why I go every year. I practice every day, but I think really the practice that in some ways matters the most is when I'm on the mountain,
Yes.
because it's like a help for me. It's like an aid. It's like you're doing the hard work throughout the year. That's beautiful. So let's elevate that a little bit. Let's
Mhm.
accelerate that. Let's deepen it by surrounding you with all of this wisdom, depth of practice, all of the deities, all of the history, but importantly, all of the energy of that space. It's mind bending. It's beautiful.
It's amazing, and it reminds me of an experience that I had earlier this summer where I was joining a group to do a 21-day sit spot nature meditation where literally you go into nature at the same exact spot. And the job is to become one with nature, to not like do necessarily anything with your breath or your mind, just be nature and be present. And it's
Mm-hmm.
once again that nature aestheticism. And I had this aha moment, like the the woman who was doing the practice with us was, this is a 21-day practice. And I had this aha moment. Asui had a 21-day nature
Right.
practice, right?
Right.
It wasn't necessarily a, that was the mountain aestheticism piece. That was him being coming one with nature. And why is that not illuminated in the Reiki world? Like this such a huge part of that severe, quote unquote, severe practice that he was experiencing was to be one with nature. And in being with nature, how we surrender to and letting go of and releasing anything that doesn't serve us so that we
Mm-hmm.
can have this profound oneness connection in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that awareness that I had, um, just by hearing the story of what sit spot meditation is. Like, try it if you've never done it. Like, it's very cool. And knowing that we have not only a sui who is practicing, we have all of these uh, yamabushi who are practicing
Mm-hmm.
shugendo.
Mm-hmm.
That is what they do. That's what they're doing. And having that idea where it's so connected into nature and it's so connected into these beautiful, very shamanic practices, whether it is going to the Goma fire ceremonies, whether it is doing some type of, bodily release work. Like, there's so many different ways that they approach it, but it all comes down to, am I releasing so much that I can be one with nature?
Right.
And how is that not shamanic? Like, that to me, like, that's the epitome of shamanism, is to be one with nature and connected with nature.
That's right. That's it. And I think, from my perspective, I think the beauty of that is, like bamboo bends with the wind, it doesn't resist it.
Yes.
The natural world moves with the natural world. Everything is in a state of balance and continual movement. If one population gets out of control, something will balance it. We lack that fluidity. Like if something in our life gets out of balance, let's say you get overweight or whatever, the natural world will be like, well, then you go on a diet or you exercise and you get back to balance. But the human side of it is like, no, I'm just going to continue to be unhealthy or whatever. Like there's this beautiful and necessary fluidity in the balance of equilibrium within the natural world, that if we surrender into that, then we become a part of that balance as well. We become a part of that natural equilibrium, because that's what everything in the universe seeks, is equilibrium with all of your surrounding environments. Everything is working to be at equilibrium with everything else. You know, one of the examples of this that I cannot wait for you to see this one, Christine. My God, last year, this was arguably the most significant spiritual moment of my entire life to date, hands down. Okay, so I can't wait for you and everybody else to be there. If we're talking about surrendering to the natural world, if we're talking about surrendering into oneself and going right up to the precipice, I don't think there's any better example of that than the Ajari Sama on Mount Hiei. Now,
Mm.
the Ajari Sama is one of only 40 or so monks that have completed this insane this insane feat of human endurance called the Kaihogyu. And he's the only one there right now. That's it. He's the only one, right? And only since 18, this is off the top of my head. Like we said, we don't have any notes. We're not rehearsing this or anything. So I think it was from 1840, only 43 people have ever completed this.
Mm.
So there's one living there right now. He's lived there for the past 13 years. He's cut off all contact to the outside world. So no family, no friends. Every once in a while, like with this pilgrimage and small other groups. He might allow people to come in. We're very, very honored to be able to have this audience. When we were there last year, he was, for example, he was saying how he didn't even know that Japan had the bullet train until one day on his meditation, on his walk, he looked down and you can kind of like see the outskirts of Kyoto from Mount Hiei. And he saw this train just zip past. And he's like, what is that? Like, what just happened? And he had no idea. He didn't even know what it was called. He didn't even know the name of it because he had been in isolation on the mountain. So, anyways, the Kaihogyo is this circumnavigation of Mount Hiei, and it's about 65 kilometers or about 40 some odd miles around the mountain. And they have to complete that 1,000 times in 7 years. So if you do quick maths, that's like 1.5 times around the Earth at the equator. And they have to do that in 7 years. And the way that it's staged is the first year, it might be like every 4 days or so that you have to go around once. But by the sixth year, they're going around almost daily. So imagine running a marathon, more than a marathon, 2 marathons every single day around this mountain. And at every, like, there's all these stops and all these little shrines that they have to do these prayers. They have to surrender themselves to the energy of the universe, to the energy of nature. And one of the ways they talk about it is that if they can't complete one of the circumnavigations, then they have to kill themselves. They have to do harakuri or sepkuru, right? And so they have this little dagger. And when we were with him, I was like, so I've heard this. Is it true? And he opened up his robe and he's like, yeah, it's true. I've got
Yep,
it
he
right
pulled
here.
it right out. Yep.
It's right here. It's not fake. You can cut yourself if you want to feel how sharp this is. And he was super humble and he made a joke about it as well. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, it's really sharp. Like it's not fake. You can feel it. But anyways, why I'm saying that is it's not like to wow people. What this really means is he's going to do, or the people who are engaging, I don't just mean he, I mean anybody who's engaging in it. In this case, it's a he. He's going to surrender so that every footstep is not his foot. What they say on the Kaihogyo, what he's saying last year, and this is why it's so amazing to be in these audiences because you could hear it. You could have seen us. We were all like little kids, like looking up, like, wait, what? Like he was talking about how after a certain amount of circumnavigations of the mountain, he would no longer run. It would just be that nature carries his feet.
Yes. Like I
And
felt that before you said it. I'm like, no, he's floating. He's just,
yeah, he's floating. Yeah.
it's, it's just like the nature is carrying him along. Like he's no longer doing it because he's not his physical body anymore.
Right. Right. That's exactly what he's saying. He's like, this is one thing that he was saying. Like when he wakes up in the morning, he can tell the weather, for instance, that day by the sound of the crickets.
Mm.
Because there's so much of an innate connection to the natural world. So, one person might say something like, okay, but he's obviously, yes, of course, he's running on this trail. But maybe he's got it so memorized that he knows. But this is a 45-mile long mountainous trail, and if at any moment he breaks his ankle, he's got to kill himself. So there's a huge level of trust that means that he has to supersede his own body. And so if you can complete that, and when we were there, it was amazing because there was a marathon monk, an individual starting the Kaihogyo in under his stewardship. And the guy would come in and we could see his feet. His feet were all ripped apart because they have to wear these grass slippers and
Sandals,
stuff,
yeah.
which is completely insane. And as he's going through this whole thing, then if they can complete all of that, then they have to begin one of two different practices of austerity. The first one is 7 days. It used to be 10 days, but 10 days was guaranteed death because it's 7 days now of no food, no sleep, and no water. And they're just chanting to Fudomyo, the deity that you mentioned earlier. And okay, so that is completely insane in of itself. And then the next one is it's no food, no sleep, no water, and you're constantly chanting to Fudomyo, but you are like constantly a foot and a half away from a roaring fire for 7 days straight with no water, right? So everything is shutting down. So they go right up to the precipice of death to flow with the entire energy of all things. And what I'm saying is such an incredible, easily the most important, significant spiritual moment of my life was okay, we had an amazing audience, which is what we're having again this coming year, this coming pilgrimage. We had a beautiful audience sitting in a private temple with him, getting all this wisdom, understanding, being in his presence and in his energy. And then we had a private Goma ceremony, which is the exact same fire ceremony that they have in a very secluded temple. And the nun that was kind of helping us through the whole thing, she was like, okay, everybody, now bow your head in Gosho and please close your eyes. And we were all like, oh, okay. So we all bowed in Gosho. We didn't know this was happening. I had no idea this was happening. So we bowed, closed our eyes. And all of a sudden, Ajari Sama became Fudomyo, and his voice changed and he started chanting the prayer to Fudo really, really quickly, and everything. And we were singing along, which everybody on the pilgrimage is going to be able to sing along to the chant of Fudo Myo. I've already shared that with you in our previous talk. And when I was doing that, I could feel, I could feel the layers of myself detaching, as if the sound was becoming as light as the footsteps that he was talking about on the mountain. And it was quite scary, actually. It was like, oh my God, like that's a level of detachment that I've never felt. And then he comes around and he blesses everybody in the middle of the fire ceremony. And it is a moment of transcendence that I would struggle for my life to put words on. It's,
Yes.
it's, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's the most transformative, amazing moment in my spiritual understanding, because you're fully in this, like, experience. You're fully in this energy, in this vortex of a concentration of everything that it means to be the practice of this particular focus, shamanism, Reiki, whatever it might be. It's fully manifesting right in front of you, and you're a part of it. It's like you're getting sucked up in this incredible vortex of energy that is the purity of love. It's transcendent.
Yes.
It's
And
incredible.
just feeling the goosebumps as you're describing it, and also coming all the way back to this is what I feel Asui was trying to achieve himself, was that full release. And yet we still have these really amazing individuals who are practicing in a way that Asui didn't even have the opportunity to do. And so it's very much the awareness of we can go beyond. There's a level of there's an invitation with Reiki, and then when we can actually turn it into an internal journey and surrender into the practice, how deep are you willing to go into that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And knowing that this is an invitation to go to the deep and the depths of what your capacity is, and who will you transform into having food meal, which is just for our audience to recognize. He's got this huge fire around him, and he's got a rope in one hand and a sword in another, and he basically takes that rope and he pulls your the word that comes to mind, he pulls your bullshit, he pulls your
Yeah.
traumas, he pulls everything forward so that you can take that knife and cut it away and say it's no longer serving me. But you have to look at it, you have to bring it forward first. And so Fuda Myo is like, we're in a state of I'm willing to see, and I'm willing to surrender to, and I'm willing to let it go into the fire to be fully
Mm-hmm.
transmutated.
Mm-hmm.
And I've personally have had profound experiences, not only in Japan with Fudamyo, but also in times of great despair and distress. He is my go-to guy. I'm like, we need to look at this and cut it away and burn the shit out of it. Like, please come and thank you.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
and so to have the embodiment of Fudamyo in your presence would be such a great honor. Like, of course, we can't put words to that. Of course, we can't put words to enlightenment. We can't put words to the level in which we are ready to understand ourselves in connection with nature and the universe. Like,
That's right. That's right. You
yeah,
can't put words to it. And I think, I think what is so profound, I'm looking because I'm trying to figure out how to word this because of what you just said. I think is so beautiful. Like me as a lay person, Reiki practitioner, of course I have a deep practice, but not like these people.
Right.
Like this is like otherworldly. And here's why I think it's so beautiful and why for me it's giving me goosebumps everywhere. So this must be it's literally everywhere. Um, it's like all of the like you said, all of the bullshit that we hold and all of the like, I can't, I'm a victim, I can never do that, I'm too afraid, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm never going to be able to do it, I'll just stay stuck in my beliefs and da da da. Even though I know that those things are killing me, they're weighing me down, they're restricting my movement in life, they're doing all of that. That's human. That's called being human. That's fine, right? What we are doing in these moments is we are in the presence of somebody who has, in some ways or in many ways, transcended their own humanness.
Yes.
And it's like, here I am stuck in all of my humanness. And here now I'm sitting in front of somebody who has transcended their own humanness. And they are full of light and love and compassion. It's like being in front of an angel. And then so all of a sudden, it's like, well, if they did it and they are super and they're cracking jokes about the knife that they could use to kill, if they've got that far, then I'm gonna find comfort in that and move forward. And
Yes.
when you do that, like I remember chanting to Fudomyo, I was running out of breath and I was like, this is gonna overwhelm me. Remember the full moon ceremony. Remember
Yeah,
the feeling of it, right? It's
absolutely.
overwhelming, but because we're in the presence of so many people that are holding space for us in the depth that we go in these experiences, which is like the shamanic journey, right? It's like you're sitting in front of the shaman and they are bringing you further beyond where you may have thought you could go so you can learn something truer about yourself, which is the way to let go of all of the hurdles and the baggage that we're all holding on to. And the Ajari Sama on Mount Hiei is revered in Japan as the living manifestation of Fudomyo. There's only one, and he's right there, and he'll be sitting right in front of our group and talking to us. And then we have a fire ceremony with them. And that's
It's
it's
crazy. I
completely
can't wait. This is going to be
it's
amazing.
completely insane.
It
And
is.
I've just got confirmation on this. I'll say this here because I've been back and forth trying to work it out and so on. But I've just got confirmation that we're going to be going into a pagoda on Mount Hiei, which has been closed to the public for 1,200 years.
No way.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
way. That's
Yeah.
that's that's profound.
It's completely, and it's not just any pagoda. It's not just any little thing. Like I'm going to leave, this now, I'm going to leave a lot of surprises for the tour.
Yeah.
But this pagoda where we're going is so significant to Japan and so significant to the area of Hiei and Kurama, so significant to Usui Sensei and the journey of Reiki that I don't think it's a stretch to say that this is the actual foundation of Reiki Ryo,
Mm,
not Mount Kurama. This is the
mm,
where we're going to go is the center. And people don't know it, and people haven't talked about it in the Reiki world because it's closed to the public.
yeah.
Nobody's been in there. Like very few people have been in this where we're going to go in 1,200 years, and we're going to be able to go in it.
And I have to say that part of me isn't surprised that Bruce is able to create these connections, networking, opportunities, because this is the magic that he brings. I feel like this really is Bruce's superpower and calling in this lifetime is to pull these experiences together that are out of this world. And so when he says we have more surprises, it really is like when I was on the pilgrimage, it was every day. It was like, oh, when I have something more. And, and part of it was like, he didn't even know what was coming. Like at the beginning of the pilgrimage, he knew he had things in the works, but it wasn't, it just unfolds. And I think it is due to the fact that Bruce does have such an internal healing practice that he is surrendering to the process. And these priests and these opportunities, people can feel that and respect that we have this Western practitioner who is doing the work and ready to witness these beautiful opportunities and be able to really feel into it. So uh, I'm I think that's why I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to travel with Bruce. Like miracles feel like they happen all the time when you're hanging out with Bruce in in Japan. And so I really want to welcome the opportunity to travel with us to the pilgrimage in May of 2025. It's going to be profound, and the state of surrendering. I love that is the word that became our focus for today's conversation, because it felt like it tied it all together, and that really is what allows us to feel into enlightenment, feel into the flow, feel into that divine aspect of ourselves, and recognition of that we are divine, and we're divine with nature, with the universe, with these spirits. And we want to invite you into that. We want to invite you into that, and knowing that there's so much. It's such a beautiful place to be. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. We're gonna have a crew that knows me this year going, and I want to invite more of our friends out in the,
Fill it up.
let's fill it up. Like I'm like yes to all of this.
Yeah. It's, this pilgrimage is by far the biggest and the most profound one that I've put forward. And, thank you for those very, very kind words. I appreciate it. And yeah, you surrender in and you trust and you just flow, and hopefully everything comes together. And that's where I kind of started. And then it's just built from there,
Yes.
And I can't wait. There's literally every single day, there is so much coming, and there's so many things that are still in the works to add even more layers to it. But just suffice it to say that if you answer the call to this, your life will change. You will see Japan, you will see Reiki, you will see shamanism, you will see esoteric spirituality, you will see culture in ways that nobody gets to see. You'll have access to sites in Japan that nobody gets. And all of those will only serve to your own personal and spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
It will be every moment on that tour. It's an ability to open your own flower, open your own lotus, and step further into becoming your true self. And who doesn't want that? Like, who wouldn't want to go to something and then blossom into something further to what you're supposed to be anyways, as opposed to the attachments, the baggage, the I can't, da da da, all this type of stuff. And the beauty of it is that transition is in the safest country on the planet. The food's incredible. The culture is out of this world. And it's interesting. Is one thing that I'm noticing is that more and more people are joining this tour, or the pilgrimage, who Reiki to them is like a secondary thing.
Yes.
This is a spiritual pilgrimage. This is not a Reiki focused thing. I mean, Reiki is definitely there. Shamanism is definitely there. All of it together is what you're experiencing.
Yes. Yeah, I can absolutely attest to that. And before we even got on this call, Bruce was reflecting about how much I personally have changed in my life from the pilgrimage to today. Not only have I gotten a divorce, bought a house, started traveling, had my huge business rebrand, like
congratulations
things,
again, by the way.
Thank you. And like there has been huge shifts and phenomenal, profound understandings and recognition within myself of my spiritual life. And I can without a doubt say that it all went back to this pilgrimage. And for that, I'm forever grateful. And I'm like, let's do it again. Let's do it again. So know that if you are listening to this, we'll have the link to the pilgrimage in the show notes. If you sign up through that link, I'm also going to throw in a bonus. I have a 5-hour Reiki history presentation, but the two pieces I want to really highlight in that is understanding the culture of Japan from Usui's perspective. Like, what was the culture like during that time? Who are these deities? And then why did Usui go up to Mount Kurama? Because it's going to give you the framework and some of the underlying understanding. So you've got some of your homework done before we go on the pilgrimage. So know that I have resources available to you. Like I did the pilgrimage with my father last time, and now my father and my mother are most likely coming. My aunt's coming. Like I have family members. And when I did the presentation on the cultural perspective, and my dad attended that, he's like, I understand so much more of what we experienced in Japan through that presentation, because I was able to break it down. And so I'm going to be offering those pieces for anyone who decides to come. Like, we're just going to throw that in for you so that you can really step forward and having some of this underlying intellectual information provided to you so that you can really then trust and surrender in instead of trying to figure it all out while you're going through it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And I want to say that, as we come together, and you'll remember this, Christine, as well, we don't worry about like the planning, don't worry about the logistics. Once the pilgrimage, excuse me, gets closer to the date, there'll be a private Facebook group. And of course, I'm always there to help organize everything. There's hotel recommendations that are already set up. One of the questions that we were actually talking about, the only thing that we had kind of scripted, and I want to make sure we address this in the talk here today, is there's one aspect of the pilgrimage where we will be in the deep area of the Kurama Valley. So it means we're going beyond Mount Kurama. And Christine was there in the 2022 pilgrimage, it was an incredible, and I can't wait because this time we are actually creating a new historic chapter in that region. So just wait. Now this is it's gonna be incredible. So when we're there, though, one of the questions that it seems like some people may have been asking is, are we overnighting in the deep Kurama area? This was something that we were myself and my friends in Japan, we were trying to hash out how it could work because it's really beautiful. We did it last year and it was really a beautiful part of the tour. However, it seems like this year, given the timing on everything, in particular, one of the things that we can't really move is the full moon festival, of course, because it happened on a very specific day. And the flow of the pilgrimage, as you would recall, is very structured. Like what we learn on day one builds into day two.
Yes.
And it's all part of your personal journey. So because of all of those things, it is most likely that we will not be staying overnight in deep Kurama. And so that means we'll be returning to Kyoto every night. So your daily experiences will be going on, and then we'll be coming back into Kyoto for dinner and such. And you can go back, back to your hotel and everything. And another question that people have been asking me is, can family members attend, and can they be there even if they're not on the tour? And you might remember in 2022, there were a number of like spouses and people who were joining, but they weren't on the tour. But of course, they were in Kyoto, right? So that's absolutely okay. And some of the people who were there and like, now I'm going to sit this one out, when they kept hearing how much was happening then they joined anyways. So, it's not a problem if you have a spouse that wants to be, or family members that want to be in Kyoto. Of course, they can be there, but they have to be a part of the pilgrimage in order to be on the structured itinerary of the pilgrimage. I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make. And, I feel like approaching Kyoto as a tourist versus approaching Kyoto on a pilgrimage, such two different experiences.
That's two different universes.
It's way two different universes. And the fact that the pilgrimage, you receive so much of this in-depth understanding of what are you looking at? Why a pagoda? Why this deity? Why here? All of that information and experience, it goes way beyond what you're going to get on a tour information plaque or what you're going to read about in a tour book. And so it's so worth it to say yes to the full experience, the full pilgrimage, even if it's like, my mom's not a Reiki practitioner. She could barely describe what I even do, even though I've been doing it for 20 years now. Right. And she recognizes that, like, if we're going to go, we're going to go, we're going to do the things. And just want to invite you into that space to say yes. If you're feeling the call, say yes. Like there's a reason that emotion, that divine inspiration is showing up for you now. It wasn't last year. It wasn't the year before that. What is calling you to say yes to it this year? And why why are you and your spiritual growth ready for this now?
Hmm.
How
Hmm.
and I just want to have that invitation out there. Like I feel like this is a profound opportunity to surrender to your divine nature. And I can't wait. I cannot wait.
I
I'm
can't
so
wait either.
excited.
I can't wait either. It's, these people who are, if you've got a spouse who's like, yeah, I'm not into Reiki, like Christine's saying, or well, I'm not into that type of stuff, whatever.
Doesn't matter.
If they join, it's like okay, so you can go to any one of the UNESCO sites in Kyoto. You can just rock up there and you'll be part of the crowd. Or you can come on the pilgrimage and you can meet the priest and be in secluded temples and have private zazen meditations with the monks and do all these types of things that are like in a distant universe compared to what a normal tourist would see. So even just that, that's why I'm saying it's so beautiful to see so many people who are like, Reiki is not my thing, but Japanese history is, or spirituality is, or Buddhism is, or just being a tourist, but not a tourist. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like just seeing way
totally.
beyond what a tourist is. Every one of those things, your value is going to be far exceeding the payment for the pilgrimage, far exceeding it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Well, I have to say thank you so much for coming on and
Thank you
having
so
this
much.
conversation. It was such an honor to be like in this energy with you yet again. So thank you for getting me all hyped up and ready to go for Japan. Know that early bird prices are through October. So be sure to get those tickets now, get your registration in. And if you have any questions, I want to fully invite you to reach out to Bruce or myself if you have
Yeah.
any questions. If it's something I can't answer readily, I'm going to direct that right over to Bruce and know that we're here to support you. We're here to support you in your spiritual journeys and transformations. And this is just yet another way to do it. And I can't
That's
wait.
it. I can't wait as well. We've got what, 7 months, October, 8 months, 8 months
I
and
can't.
counting.
I can't. I can't. I
Come
just
on.
yeah, I'm so ready. Like I know like I have travel plans already set for 2025 and I'm like this is the highlight of this is the cream of the crop when it comes to traveling and on my schedule I'm like this is it. This is the
That's
one.
awesome.
All
So
right.
May 9th through 16th, 2025. Get on it, everybody. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And the itinerary is just going to keep getting better from here on out. I can't wait. So
We'll
thank you,
see you
Christine.
there.
As always, it's a pleasure to be back. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see all of you in Kyoto with Christine in May 2025.
We'll see you there. And until next time, may you awaken to the whispers of wisdom from within. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.